Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, announcing the arrival of Yang Amat Berhormat Datuk Sri Anwar bin Ibrahim, Prime Minister, accompanied by our other distinguished guests.
Malaysia madani, hai bersatu hati, kita semua sama Malaysia. Berdiri megah, selamanya kita bersama, warisan takkan binasa. Setia gagah bersama kita merdeka, kita semua anak Malaysia. Selamanya Malaysia. Kita Melayu, Cina, India, Iban kadasan kita sejiwa. Malaysia madani, rakyat disantuni, timur, barat, selatan dan utara. Malaysia madani, hai bersatu hati, kita semua sama Malaysia. Hai orang India, berbudi bahasa, lembut langkah tarian indahnya. Hai adan tarian naga, hai Melayu pula macam-macam budaya.
Thank you, members of the media. Please kindly clear the main stage as we will be starting soon. Terima kasih kepada rakan-rakan media dipohon kerjasama untuk memberi laluan di pentas utama supaya dapat dimulakan atau cara rasmi. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please do kindly remain standing in honor of the national anthem of Malaysia, Negaraku. Thank you, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Do kindly be seated. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, once again to Forum Ekonomi Malaysia. Big round of applause. Let's get the energy up in the room, everyone. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, salam Malaysia Madani, and a very good afternoon. Yang Amat Berhormat Datuk Sri Anwar bin Ibrahim, Prime Minister. Yang Amat Berhormat Datuk Amar Haji Fadilah bin Haji Yusof, Deputy Prime Minister. Yang Amat Berhormat Tan Sri Datuk Patinggi Dr. Abang Haji Abdul Rahman Zohari bin Tun Datuk Abang Haji Openg, Premier of Sarawak. Yang Berhormat Tuan Haji Akmal Nasrullah bin Muhammad Nasir, Minister of Economy. Yang Berhormat President of the Senate. Yang Berhormat members of Cabinet in attendance. Yang Berbahagia Chief Secretary to the Government. Your Excellencies, foreign heads of missions to Malaysia, senior government officials and heads of departments, Yang Berbahagia Tan Sri Datuk Sri IR Zamzam Zairani Muhammad Isa, Chairman of Maybank, Yang berbahagia, Tan Sri Abdul Farid Alias, Chairman of Bursa Malaysia, our strategic partners, members of the media, delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It is truly an exciting time to welcome you this afternoon. Today's forum throughout the morning has served as a premier platform for policymakers, industry captains, and visionary leaders to dissect the global trends shaping our fiscal landscape and to chart a resilient course for Malaysia's future in the regional and global marketplace. We have been privileged throughout the entire morning, Yang Amat Berhormat Prime Minister and distinguished guests, for an assembly of speakers to lead us through critical dialogues and exciting topics that have been lined up throughout the morning. Throughout the day, however, we hope that you will continue to participate in these discussions and engage deeply in the sessions as we continue to navigate the momentum to the very end. And insights shared here will truly be instrumental in helping you understand the complexities of 2026 and beyond. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed, let us seek blessings from the Almighty for a smooth and purposeful event moving forward. I'd like to invite Al-Fadhil Ustaz Tuan Haji Ehsan bin Muhammad Hosni, Imam Besar Masjid Negara, to kindly lead us in the recitation of the dua.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. We are grateful for your countless blessings and favors which have enabled us to gather at the Malaysia Economic Forum 2026 to be officiated by the Prime Minister of Malaysia. Bestow your blessings upon this event so that it may bring great benefit to the development of our nation, Malaysia. O Allah, the possessor of all knowledge, make the discussion in this forum a starting point for understanding the challenges, seeking solutions, and formulating strategies that are just and inclusive in support of the implementation of the 13th Malaysia Plan. اللهم بارك لنا فيما رزقتنا واجعل هذا العمل عملا مباركا وانشر فيه السكينة والرحمة واحفظنا من كل بلاء وفتنة ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Thank you, Al-Fadhil Ustaz Tuan Haji Ehsan bin Muhammad Hosni, Imam Besar Masjid Negara, for leading us in the recitation of the dua. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please allow me to welcome to the stage Yang Berhormat Tuan Haji Akmal Nasrullah bin Muhammad Nasir, Minister of Economy, to deliver his welcoming remarks.
Satu hati walau berbilang bangsa kan bersama tawa naungannya. Satu jiwa tak kira apa warna.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera, salam Malaysia Madani. Terima kasih kepada saudara Terence Das dari pagi memberikan kami tenaga dan penuh keyakinan hari ini. Yang Amat Berhormat Datuk Seri Anwar ibn Ibrahim, Prime Minister. Yang Amat Berhormat Datuk Amar Haji Fadilah bin Haji Yusof, Deputy Prime Minister. Yang Amat Berhormat Tan Sri Datuk Patinggi Dr. Abang Haji Abdul Rahman Zohari bin Tun Datuk Abang Haji Openg, Premier of Sarawak. Yang Berhormat President of the Senate. Yang Berhormat Members of Cabinet. Yang berbahagia Chief Secretary to the Government, Your Excellencies, Foreign Heads of Mission in Malaysia, Senior Government Officials and Head of Departments, Yang berbahagia Tan Sri Datuk Sri Insinyur Zamzam Zairani Muhammad Isa, Chairman of Maybank, Yang berbahagia Tan Sri Abdul Farid Alias, Chairman of Bursa Malaysia, Strategic Partners, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, and a very warm welcome to all of you to the Forum Ekonomi Malaysia FEM 2026. It is a great privilege to host this important gathering of policymakers, industry leaders, academia, professionals, and experts from the public and private sectors who share a common commitment to advancing Malaysia's economic resilience and long-term prosperity. Your presence today reflects the importance of collaboration, cooperation, dialogue, and strategic thinking in navigating an increasingly complex global landscape. It is truly exciting to see so many passionate minds gathered in one place, united by a shared vision to shape the future of Malaysia's economy and unlock new opportunities for growth, innovation, and prosperity. Please let me take this opportunity to thank Yang Amat Berhormat Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar bin Ibrahim for his presence here with us today to officiate Forum Ekonomi Malaysia 2026. Let us give him a big round of applause. Thank you for your time and commitment, sir. I would also like to express my gratitude to our Deputy Prime Minister, Yang Amat Berhormat Datuk Ahmad Haji Fadilah, Yang Amat Berhormat Tan Sri Datuk Patinggi Dr. Abdul Haji Abdul Rahman Zohari. Now it became his annual event. He came also for last year. Thank you, Prima Sarawak. The Cabinet Ministers, Member of Parliament, industry players, academicians, ambassadors, and High Commission's representative in Malaysia for attending this annual event. Forum Ekonomi Malaysia began in 2025 as a platform to bring people together, policymakers, business leaders, and experts from all walks of life with a shared goal of shaping Malaysia's economic future. That first edition welcomed more than 3,000 participants among together to discuss how our nation could navigate a rapidly changing world. FEM 2025 focused on strengthening trade, safeguarding jobs, and building resilience against global uncertainties, from rising protectionism to the tensions between the US and China affecting key industries like semiconductors. FEM 2025 also showed our commitment to working closely with our ASEAN neighbors, engaging the Global South, and making sure domestic policies under the 13th Malaysia Plan would support growth that benefits everyone. It reminded us that our economic progress isn't just about numbers. It's about people, partnerships, and planning for a shared future. Building on the momentum of FEM 2025, the FEM 2026 theme, Accelerating Growth, Advancing Malaysia, represents the next step in our journey towards a prosperous future. Today, we welcome nearly 5,000 participants who came together to exchange ideas, inspire action, and contribute towards a better tomorrow. And among them are institutional investors managing a combined $7.3 trillion in assets under management, and corporates with a total market capitalization of $226 billion worth of the funding. So I think this is really good crowd that we have today. Alhamdulillah, we continue to witness strong interest from investors, corporates, SMEs, and the wider public in attending FEM, demonstrating the collective desire to build a stronger, more dynamic economy. Guided by the Madani economy and anchored by 13 Malaysia Plan, it's about moving forward together, creating opportunities, strengthening resilience, and ensuring that Malaysia's growth is inclusive, sustainable, and truly for our rakyat. FEM 2026 is a pivotal checkpoint in turning key policy frameworks into tangible results. It aligns the government, industry, investors, and academia toward shared goals, driving growth, unlocking investments, advancing regional development, enhancing human capital, and implementing structural reforms. FEM this year is set to make 2026 the year of implementation, where success is measured not by announcements, but by the delivery of real outcomes, overcoming challenges, and creating lasting impacts that are felt by the rakyat within a reasonable time frame. FEM strengthens delivery discipline through data-driven transparency, positioning itself as the national report card on implementation. By combining open dialogue with systematic monitoring and accountability, FEM ensures that its recommendations move from discussion to delivery, evolving into actionable policies with measurable results. In the morning session, we were delighted to host distinguished speakers, each experts in their fields, to share insights and discuss pathways for the nation's development. We are honored to have a number of ministers and deputy ministers as panelists involved in relevant intellectual discourse. Topics discussed today include the Made by Malaysia vision, fiscal and monetary policies, trade, investment and global market expansion, AI-driven economy, sustainability and energy transition, future-ready talent, affordable housing, equitable healthcare reforms, and aging population readiness. And during my opening remark just in the morning, I just make a claim it's only less than 2 months being in the Kementerian Ekonomi, but more works need to be done here. And it's also a great pleasure to welcome our esteemed plenary speaker, Mr. Tom Gruber, a visionary in technologies that enhance human intelligence. As co-founder and head of design for the team behind Siri, he continues to advise organizations in leveraging AI to foster collaboration, learning, and promoting a positive impact on humanity. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I would also like to take this opportunity to thank our principal strategic partners, Maybank and Bursa Malaysia, strategic partner, HSBC Bank, supporting partners, MBSB and AIIB for their collaboration and contribution in organizing today's event. Lastly, not to be forgotten, thank you to the organizing team from the Ministry of Economy for their effort and determination in organizing today's forum. It is of my fervent hope that we have had a productive, inspiring, and engaging forum. Once again, thank you very much for your time and participation in FEM 2026. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking the Minister of Economy Malaysia, Yang Berhormat Tuan Haji Akmal Nasrullah bin Muhammad Nasir.
Satu hati walau berbilang bangsa kan bersama.
And now, as foreshadowed by the Honourable Minister, we shall be introducing you to a guest that has had a special part in introducing Siri to us. Now, if you use Siri on your phone, ladies and gentlemen, or lean from a threaded discussion onto the web, collaborate with colleagues in virtual workplaces, our next speaker is likely to have designed or influenced its development. Ladies and gentlemen, Tom Gruber's career spans 4 decades at the forefront of technology, from graduate research during the classical AI era to pioneering work at Stanford at the dawn of the web, to founding and advising startups, and today, his work as a speaker and impact advisor. Throughout his career, Tom has been driven by a central question: how can technology help us live better lives? Drawing on artificial intelligence, cognitive science, and design, his work explores how connecting people and machines can enable that special collaboration for learning and knowledge sharing. So on that note, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce to you our speaker from the United States of America for the plenary address, the co-founder and former CTO of Siri, Mr. Tom Gruber.
Thank you very much. It's a real honor to be here speaking with you, getting to meet you all. This is amazing. I just have a few minutes, and I'll share them with you to maybe shed a little light on how something what I call humanistic AI might relate to the goals laid out by the AI plan for Malaysia. Now, let's start with the opportunity in front of us. Now, everyone's been hearing about AI. They think it's such a big deal, it's scary, it's wonderful. But it's not just a technology or a tool. And this is a historic opportunity, really, to transform how we work and how we live and how to create value in the economy. This has never been a possibility in our lifetimes like this. And I promise you, that's not hyperbole. I've been in the AI field for 40 years. And this is an inflection point, truly. And it's a point where essentially right now, good decisions that we make will have enormous impact down the line. Now that impact is well summed up by the phrase, raising the floor, raising the ceiling. Now, while this phrase has broader meaning in the context of overall economic growth and development, I think it really does fit well to talk about the significance of AI today and the opportunities for Malaysia. So, because what does that mean, raise the floor, raise the ceiling? AI can raise the floor for those who can use the technology to create new products and businesses. And in a sense, there's so many ways to do something with AI, and so many more people can use it than ever before. It gives everyone a higher starting point to start doing increasingly interesting things with the technology. And in fact, in short, it democratizes the means of production in a way that no technology has ever done before. Now, AI can raise the ceiling of what's possible in the sense that people can do more now with this technology than they've ever been able to do. And I'll give you examples. Let's go a little deeper into these ideas. So this metaphor of raising the floor, it means that not just big companies or companies that are well established or companies that are in some other country are the players anymore. We're all players. More companies, more individuals within companies, even consumers can now do amazing creative things with AI. And why is that? Well, first of all, there's a foundational infrastructure for AI. The language models, the ability to do speech and language understanding, to be able to generate images and videos and so on. Now that is a starting point that we can all start from. And that's very expensive to make, and somebody else already made it for us. Mostly these big companies in the US. And so, secondly, that means that startup companies or established vertical companies or even individuals can build applications on top of this foundation. Now, this is unprecedented. I've been doing startups for 40 years, and most of the time there's hard things to overcome. You have to get capital and labor and a bunch of hard technology. Now we're seeing the opportunity for people to do exciting new things because some very breakthrough AI technologies are solved. And now we can get on with solving the human problems that we're trying to do with our applications. And it's also worth mentioning that the value creation from technical innovation doesn't just come from startups. I keep using that startups because I'm a startup kind of person, but individuals, startups, small companies, verticals, it's not in isolation. The success stories we're seeing, and we're going to see more, are collaborations between industry and academia and government. Now, let's talk about raising the ceiling, that metaphor. Well, many of the important problems that we've always tried to solve and have been struggling with, even using AI over the decades, are now in range because we can augment human cognition with automation. Now, the problems I'm optimistic about include things like giving every child in the world a world-class education. It has formerly been limited by how many teachers and professional instructors are there in the world, and how well is the education distributed? What about providing effective behavioral health counseling and mental health care for the people who need it all over the world. That's also been limited by a lack of human expertise at scale. And what about the generation of clean energy? We always hear about AI magically solving these problems, but really, a lot of the problems of clean energy and a sustainable future come down to some fundamentals in science, material science, things like that AI can now be using to accelerate. And this means that basically the ceiling is so high now that people with moderate technical skill and moderate amounts of capital are now able to do really big things. But this opportunity to create value won't just happen automatically. It will require us making wise decisions, ethical decisions, today. And those decisions start with which projects do we focus on? And why do we bother putting AI in the workplace, for example? And you know, there's a train of thought that's very common now that says, when someone says, go and you put AI in your business, the first thing that comes to mind for some people is, well, let's reduce cost. Now, reducing cost is essentially saying that the purpose of AI is to replace humans. And automating human labor is a thing. I can see the value in that. It's not, in my view, it shouldn't be a goal. It might be a means to some end, but when people take it as a goal, it doesn't always work out so well. Because it puts the machine at the center of value creation, when in fact people should be. Now, there are some tasks that are definitely better handled by machines, like operating dangerous equipment on a factory floor, or I hope driving cars, because we're not very good at it. But really, the idea is, let's not think of this as a goal of AI. Let's think of another way of a goal of an AI. And that's the view what I call humanistic AI. And that's basically saying the reason we should do AI and how we should choose the ethical basis for choosing projects to do should be based on, do they help humans meet a human need primarily? Do they help humans do things that humans want to do? And normally, it turns out that the way AI is used to do that is either by augmenting the cognition of humans, making us smarter at scale, or collaborating with us, adding to our workforce by helping us. And this, as I said, is called humanistic AI. And I'm going to give you a few examples. We're going to see, though, what's interesting is if you choose to make a humanistic AI application, which meets a human need, not just cutting costs, and is doing so by collaborating with people rather than automating their jobs or augmenting their brain, well, that can be done on this rising foundation, this rising floor. And these are the kind of applications that can create outsized benefit. So there's no trade-off doing humanistic AI with productivity or growth or value. In fact, I think the opposite is true. Now, let me give you an example. This might not be the first thing you would think of when you hear the word humanistic, but the founders of Siri were quite clear that we were dedicating our careers to augmenting human intelligence. It wasn't about making, say, an assistant replacing machine. Because most of us don't have virtual assistants. So really, that's not the case. Yeah? Really, when Siri was created, think about it, it's a long time ago now, late 2000s, 2008. Okay? So for those of us who were around digital back then, there was something called Web 2.0. So this is when Google Maps was created, when Wikipedia was created, when all these things were created that essentially are the product of us collaborating together on the web to create these enormous new resources. These were places where you could find a restaurant review or movies and so on. And yet, the only way you could use all of that bounty is 10 fingers, a big screen, and an internet connection. And then along comes, in 2007, iPhone 1. And we thought, 10 fingers, big screen, not there. Right? We need something new. And if we're going to create a new interface paradigm for the mobile era, let's go ahead and go to our big vision of making an interface to AI. Because really, the best way to solve that problem is to get rid of the interface in general. And just say, all you have to do is talk, say what you want in your language, and have it figure out what you mean. And this basically was augmenting our users. If you're out and about and you want to book a movie or you're a restaurant or you want to you can't actually go and stare at your phone and tap on it. It's not safe if you're in the car driving, and most of the time we just can't. So what we're doing is essentially augmenting the mobile user. Now, this was, in fact, an example of rising floor. The floor was rising differently back then. But we were able to build on the shoulders of some giants. Well, first of all, understand that Siri, most people think Siri was built by Apple. It was built by 24 people at the end. It started with 4 or 5, 6, 7, 24 people by the time Apple bought us. We built the whole thing. It worked. Okay? And a few weeks after it was launched, Steve Jobs gave us a call, said, please come join. It was also built in 2 years. You can talk to me after about the amount of money, but not very much money in today's terms. And of course, today, I'm really proud to see that it's still used billions of times a day. We kind of hit the mainstream. Now, how could a small team reach a big impact? Okay, this is the question, because I think this is relevant to the question here. How can a small company or a country full of small businesses, not the dominant players like Microsoft and Google and so on. If you're not Microsoft and Google, how are you going to compete? Well, don't behave like them. Behave like a startup. And I think this is what we see. Now, so there's some lessons from Siri that we're going to see apply today. So essentially what happened is, looking back, Siri was able to do this thing not because we were geniuses or something, and we weren't, and not because the idea was brilliant. It was not a new idea. It's because we recognized that it was the time to exploit 3 key technologies that just was coming along. First of all, you've seen exponential curves a lot with AI these days, right? Well, there was an exponential curve for bandwidth right when we started it. The left curve is the curve of hardwired, cables to your phone and to your house, that kind of thing. The second one, the green curve, is the exponential rise of mobile bandwidth. The number of people online and so on using mobile to get to the internet. And we caught it right at the beginning, but we predicted that this would happen, and therefore there would be demand. The second thing was, well, AI was one of our technologies. It was what they call good old-fashioned AI and statistical speech recognition. And what we did is made a bet. We said, look, it's kind of early, but it's good enough. It's close enough that if we build it and a lot of people use it, we're going to get some more data, and then they're going to give us a better way to train it to make it better and better. And yeah, when it first started out, it was fun to watch the comedians make fun of Siri because it would make mistakes. And we actually put a lot of work into making Siri funny about being dumb. And it worked. The people used it. And when people used it, we got the data, and we were able to improve the product. Now, the third technology was this Web 2.0 I referred to. And it's really 2 things. One is that there were all these services that were effectively available because of a joint agreement, essentially, among industry and government. Government created the internet and the standards of the web, and industry created all these services, but there was a culture of sharing. The ecosystem included a culture of sharing, so that all these companies, instead of being the only place, you have to go to their website to use their product, they would open up programmatic interfaces so small companies could build on top of their thing. And that was called Web 2.0 and APIs. And that meant that Siri could then access dozens of other companies' work and build on it. So when you wanted to, say, reserve a restaurant, it would call like 7 different companies' work and combine them in milliseconds in the cloud. Oh, and how come it happened in the cloud? That was kind of a new thing back then, too. The cloud being what today you think of data centers, but certainly not on your computer or on your phone. And so we viewed the cloud, what they call elastic cloud, as a way to have a superpower as a small company. That is, you basically you buy just exactly as much compute as you need on demand. And Amazon and other companies do that now routinely. Everyone does it that way now, but it was new back then. So this combination of this Web 2.0 culture, the open standards created by industry and academia, this infrastructure of the elastic cloud, it allowed us to compete with all the big companies. In fact, we competed with Google literally that year. And what we ended up with was this metaphor or this paradigm called big think, small screen, where you have a tiny little interface in your hand and a very big collection of AI programs in the sky or in the cloud. And that's the secret to competing then. And guess what? It's kind of the way it works now. Because today we have the same conversational interface paradigm. We have conversational interactions on a phone or maybe a PIN or voice only or whatever, but relatively small conversational interface. That's through ChatGPT or your favorite AI. But the cloud part has gotten much, much smarter. Now we have really big language models and so on. And so, but now I'm going to try to carry some of these lessons over. Remember that green curve of bandwidth? Well, we're kind of at a similar place right now with AI capabilities. This curve represents, for all these economists out there, you always go, what is the y-axis, buddy? Well, this one is the amount of time it would take for a human to do the task that the machine can do. It's a good metric, actually. So these days, early days, back in 2021 and so on, they could write a very short program. It would take a human maybe a minute or so to write. Today, they can write programs that take months for humans to do. So across this metric, across a bunch of things, is doubling the rate at every 7 months. So it's an exponential. And we're seeing this opportunity for all of us now. This is the time to jump in and take advantage of it. Now, I'm going to show you an example of that, another example of humanistic AI, but also in the modern era of AI. This is using generative image generation technology. In fact, every single image in this slide, almost every image, is generated by a collaboration between myself and AI and a designer. As you notice, we kind of landed on this wooden character to represent AI instead of like a Kevlar armored robot or something. And this took a while. It took a few hours, not a few months. And we were able to solve a visual metaphor problem that none of the three parties had in our heads at the beginning. Through conversation, we solved it. And then once we solved it, we could then use it over and over again. Like in this case, I have an AI and music company. I said, well, why don't we make an artificial human musician and an artificial AI representation as a puppet. And literally it was just a few minutes, boom, a fully rendered thing. This was impossibly expensive to do in the past. And in fact, even the code that this company uses was written mostly by one person who had never been a professional software engineer before. His name is Ryan. And the work I saw him doing last November when I was visiting would have taken months of a team of programmers to do just 2 years earlier. And he's doing it by himself. So basically, we've raised the floor on what's possible. And we raised the ceiling, not only for small companies doing things, but imagine what we could do if we coordinated our overall plan here. Like got together and say, what could we do as a nation or as a large corporation, what could we do if we really aimed a bunch of resources and energy and talent at some problem? Well, as I mentioned, I'm interested in these problems like education. Let's dig in just a little bit. Education is a thing that we in AI have been trying to solve for decades. We never could nail the problem until now, but we can now. To make an intelligent tutor for every child in the world, you need to have the tutor be smart enough to understand the contents that you're being taught. It has to understand pedagogy, and it has to understand the language of the student. Now it can, for the first time in history. And companies like Khan Academy, which millions of people use to take classes already, are using this. Another large class of opportunities is in the space of therapy and personal development. According to the World Health Organization, 1 billion people, 1 in 8 of us, has a significant mental health disorder that requires treatment, completely underserved by existing human psychologists and psychiatrists. There'll never be enough. Yet, the technology of conversational interfaces to AI actually is a well-suited modality for conversational therapy. And it's things like cognitive behavior therapy and IFS. And not only that, they can be personalized and tirelessly available. And not just mental health care, but also personalized wellness plans, chronic disease management, like how to do the behavior changes that help you stay healthy. A lot of things are in the spectrum. And then finally, at the global scale, AI is being used to build, say this is a language model for mitigating climate change problems. It's called Climate GPT. I'll skip some of the details on this. Now, I'm gonna skip ahead to a couple slides just to close on the things for today to talk about, to think about. This is just the start of a conversation. What can a government do about this to help make the right things come out? Well, first, we can build confidence in AI applications, and that's largely a matter of building trust. Right now, a lot of people don't trust AI, so the industry is kind of tenuous right now. And governments can do things to create a trusted relationship. We've done it with financial services, for example. We can do it with AI. We also need incentives so that the companies who build AI are not motivated by just advertising dollar that drives students or users into addiction, but incentives that do things like increase your wellness, your mental health, your ability to relate to other human beings. And we need clear boundaries between real people and fake people. In other words, we need to have essentially a generalized notion of fraud enforced and understood in the general population. Now, I'm going to close with something that might be obvious in hindsight, but worth saying. There's good news about AI. It's pure software. It's just bits. And what does that mean? It means even though it takes a lot of money and talent and time to build the foundations and maybe even a lot to build the first applications, once the application is built, it can run and be given away relatively cheap to everybody. And because it's so good with language, they can even reach poorly educated and technically illiterate users. And because most of the heavy lifting, the heavy technical lifting, is being done by AI models that someone else is building, we can harness the power of human ingenuity, our ingenuity, to build companies, to learn things in universities, and direct our investment capital strategically. In fact, we now, essentially what this rolls up to be is, we now have the potential to bring the benefits of the most transformative technology of our lifetimes to every person on earth. Makes me very happy. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in thanking Mr. Tom Gruber for joining us here today for the special plenary address. And now, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, to deliver the keynote address, please put your hands together and help me welcome to the stage Yang Amat Berhormat Datuk Seri Anwar bin Ibrahim, Prime Minister.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan salam sejahtera. Alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulil karim. Saudara TPM, Datuk Seri Fadilah, Saudara Premier, Abang Jo, Menteri-Menteri, khususnya Menteri Ekonomi dan pasukan Kementerian Ekonomi, rakan-rakan yang saya muliakan. Tentunya hari ini kita mendengar tadi Tom Gruber satu penekanan yang menuntut kita melakukan sesuatu lonjakan, dan saya tentunya bersama rakan-rakan merasa lega kerana kita di tapak yang sesuai dan wajar mengerahkan seluruh kekuatan dalam negara kita untuk memusatkan perhatian ke arah pertumbuhan ekonomi dengan yang lebih rancak, tahap, kepesatan dan kelajuan yang lebih meyakinkan. Dan sebab itu Forum Ekonomi Malaysia ini bagi saya satu juga ruang untuk kita bahas secara terbuka Karena isu-isu ini bukan isu yang sudah ditanggapi sebelumnya. Ini isu-isu yang berubah dengan pesat. Dan saya lebih tertarik karena kehadiran bukan saja rakan-rakan menteri, tapi juga dengan dukungan tokoh-tokoh seperti Premier Mang Johari yang merupakan suatu lagi sosok yang agak ke depan dalam memaksa perubahan dan peningkatan dalam bidang teknologi baru ini. Terima kasih. Now, we have launched the second Malaysia, the second Malaysia Economic Forum. I'm talking about the plan now. Now, this is not confined to merely an attempt to forecast or policy instruments, but I need to also emphasize the importance of, other than policy instruments, to remind ourselves about responsibility. Responsibility to govern with integrity, to ensure that economic progress carries true and tangible meaning for the rakyat. Malaysia today stands on firmer ground. Our GDP is on track to grow by around 4.9% in 2025, while inflation has been contained at 1.6%. Investment confidence is returning. These are encouraging signs reflecting disciplined fiscal management and a renewed sense of seriousness in governance. This progress did not come about by chance. It reflects a deliberate effort to restore trust in public finances, credibility in institutions, and integrity in the exercise of power. Confidence does not respond to slogans or short-term measures. It responds to consistency, to clarity of intent, and to the assurance that reform is sustained rather than episodic. So let us be clear. Numbers alone do not define success. Markets may respond to data, but the rakyat judge by experience. Growth must be felt in homes, in workplaces, and in the cost of living faced by ordinary families. Otherwise, it remains hollow. One visible signal of renewed confidence is the strengthening of the ringgit. External factors do play a role, but currencies ultimately reflect the trust in institutions, in policy directions, and trust that the country is governed by discipline and purpose. That trust is being rebuilt because of this Madadi government has taken a clear, principled, and uncompromising stand on governance. There will be no tolerance for corruption. And no exceptions for the well-connected. Without accountability, there can be no credibility. Without credibility, there can be no sustainable growth. This is not a campaign for headlines, nor a passing phase. It is a recognition that lasting confidence depends on the certainty that the law applies equally to all. When enforcement is consistent, trust can be restored and institutions regain their authority. And yet, enforcement alone is not enough. That is precisely why institutional reform continues without pause and without apology. We are strengthening institutions so that integrity does not depend on personalities, but on systems. Rules must outlast individuals. Reform must endure beyond political cycles. These efforts are already bearing fruit, and thank you to the team. Investors are responding to consistency and predictability. They see firmer governance, clearer direction, and a country serious about long-term stability. This is reflected in their investment decisions and in a reassessment of Malaysia's economic risk. With this foundation in place, confidence must translate into better lives. Cost of living pressures are real and felt daily by the rakyat. This is why our economic strategy combines macroeconomic discipline with targeted support to protect purchasing power and ensure that growth improves real living standards. At its core, development is about expanding opportunity. It is not merely about raising output or improving statistics, but about enlarging what people can realistically aspire to live and achieve in their own lives. Growth becomes meaningful only when it opens doors to education, to decent work, to upward mobility, and to the ability to plan one's future with confidence. Economic reforms earns legitimacy not when it looks impressive on paper, but when it widens opportunity, reduces exclusion, and strengthens the dignity of every citizen. Put a reminder for Akmal and the team here. Education remains central to this mission. It is the most powerful equalizer. With an allocation of exceeding 84 billion ringgit in budget 2026, we are committing not just resources, but resolve to reforms in education and training and promote flexibility, mobility, and lifelong learning, recognizing that talent develops at different stages of life. These reforms respond to a labor market already in transition, where skills must be renewed, careers evolve, and workers require support across different stages of life. Education today must equip Malaysians not only with knowledge, but with adaptability, resilience, and the confidence to navigate change. Technology makes this urgency unmistakable. Artificial intelligence is reshaping work and industry. The question is not whether change will come, but whether we are prepared. Whether technology widens opportunity or deepens inequality depends on how choices we make now. Ladies and gentlemen, growth must also be broad-based. Concentration benefits no one in the long run. Regional development, support for small and medium enterprises, and higher value tourism services are essential to building a resilient economy where progress is shared more widely. At the same time, prosperity requires security in life's essentials, healthcare, housing, and preparation for an aging society are not peripheral concerns. They go to the heart of dignity and social stability. A nation cannot strive if its people live in fear of illness, insecurity, or neglect. The same discipline and long-term thinking guide our approach to climate and industrial policy. Energy transition is no longer optional. It is a practical response to changing global markets and rising expectations. To succeed, investors require clear rules. Exporters must adjust, and institutions must provide stability. As Parliament prepares to consider the climate change bill, we will pursue this transition in a manner that is orderly, evidence-based, and firmly anchored in national interest. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sounding a bit too serious. Let me conclude. Over 1,000 years ago, Al-Farabi reminded us that leadership is a moral obligation to create the conditions for human flourishing and to restore balance when it is lost. This Madani government takes that obligation seriously. We will not retreat from reform and we will not compromise on integrity. If we stay the course, inshallah, I'm confident that Malaysia will continue on a positive growth trajectory, one that is resilient, inclusive, and governed with honor. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you, Yang Berhormat Datuk Seri. We'd like to invite you, sir, to kindly remain on stage as I invite all our distinguished guests in the front row to join the Honourable Prime Minister for the official launch of the forum Ekonomi Malaysia 2026. To officiate the launch this afternoon, we'd like to invite Yang Berhormat Datuk Seri Anwar bin Ibrahim to kindly insert the acrylic key in place to initiate the launch sequence. As we count down from 3, 2, 1.
World of uncertainty, Malaysia chose discipline. We tightened the belt, we stabilized the core, we weathered challenges and stood strong. Now we shift gears. We are no longer just a factory, we are the creators. A digital tiger, powering a green revolution. From assembling the future to designing it. But numbers on a screen mean nothing without people. Growth must build a roof over your head. As we accelerate growth as an aging nation, it must promise us care, security, dignity. This is the Madani economy, high tech with high touch. The plan is in motion. Welcome to the acceleration.
Thank you, Yang Berhormat Datuk Seri, for officially launching Forum Ekonomi Malaysia 2026, accelerating growth, advancing Malaysia. As we invite Yang Berhormat Datuk Seri and all our distinguished guests to return to their seats, we'd like to invite members of the media and our official photography crew to take their place on stage for a group photograph with all our distinguished guests and delegates. So I'd like to invite everyone to kindly rise. Join the Honourable Prime Minister and all our distinguished guests for this special commemorative photo in celebrating the launch of FEM 2026. Photography teams, please kindly make your way to the stage. Let's have our eyes on the cameras on stage, everyone. Thank you very much, members of the media. And on that note, distinguished guests, once again we thank Yang Berhormat Datuk Seri Anwar bin Ibrahim for joining us here today. And I'd like to announce the departure of Yang Berhormat Datuk Seri Anwar bin Ibrahim, Prime Minister, and all our distinguished guests as they make their way to the networking session. To all other delegates, please kindly remain in the hall. Our next session will begin shortly. Thank you.